So what's up, Amit? How are you?
Hey, I'm fine. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thanks a million for coming on. We were just saying about the lockdown. How are things in Poland at the moment? How has Poland been?
So now it's like it was really tough. So the government really closed everything, like restaurants and bars, and also the sports school and sports facilities. So no trainings, no meetings. But for now, it's like everything is going in the right way. So we can go and train like personal training, but not in the closed gyms, but outside. So I'm just praying for a good weather to do some trainings with my athletes. Yeah, but I think it's going to the like a much more not so strict way. So it's getting better and better, and I hope it's gonna be better and better. So yeah, it was really hard, but for now it's going more easy, you know.
Is there any plan on when you'll be able to get back into the gyms?
So like I'm working also with football. So we have started like small group trainings, like six players on the field. So this is stupid rule because no matter how big is the field, you can only have 6 players. So it's ridiculous because the big markets, you know, like they put the number of people per square meter, right? Per size of the shop. So, but they do not do this the same for the field. So no matter how big is the field, you have only 6 players. So if we have the full size field, we can have only 6 players, right? So it's really stupid for me. And so we started small training sessions. First, what we have started the weigh-in with everyone. So we have checked who trained, who not, and yeah. So and also my athletes with where I work with, they have their own equipment in the home. So we have just maintained the physical capacity what they have, but there was no chance to build something new, to develop. So it was like much more things to be in the mental way. So yeah, just keep doing what we are doing, and do not just lose what you have already gained, right? So it was like a compromise of the situation, and what we can do with everything.
Did you find it hard to not be able to coach the person in person, like one-to-one, like trying to check in online and stuff? Have you found that a bit different, or is that something you would to do regular anyway?
No, I hate this, man. I hate that, like online. So it's like I always would want to be like in personal contact, like to talk, and because this is what the coaching is, and then the interaction with the athlete, how he's feeling, talking between the sets, you just come in and, hey, how are you, and how do you feel? So you can ask after each exercise or after each set, how do you feel? You can adjust the load. You can just do some feedback, some give more instructions during the training process, and these are you can motivate during the training. So these are really critical points that make that online training would never be the same what one-on-one training. And I'm not like a tech guy, so I'm not sure if I would like to do some webinars or Zoom podcasts and so on. I would be like, oh my god, I'm too old for that, right? So I really love to organize the workshops when I have like 20-30 people, and then I can present some presentation, lecturing, and discuss with the people, right? So I think it's really much more like you can really interact in much more many ways than just online system, right? So I think I find this for me much more entertainment and more interesting way to do.
Yeah, it's much more personal, and like you said, the art of the art of coaching comes out much more when you're in person as opposed to maybe online.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, and I really miss my friends from Taekwondo. So to go, because there's a lot of part what is happening in the training in the changing room, not in the gym, in the sports hall when do you train, because you do not talk a lot with the friends. But the changing room, and like when you talk with the friends, how are you, what's going on, how we can help you, this makes your environment, your culture, that you are keeping with these people. They are not only your friends from the gym, they're becoming your friends for a life, right?
Yeah.
So because you have the same passion, you have the same hobby, taekwondo or combat sports, whatever. But the changing room, the room where we are preparing for the training, and when we're coming back from the gym to the changing room and we talk about the training, it makes that you are becoming to get like more close with the friends, right? So this is what the sport is about, that you are building the relationship which is for all life.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, yeah, that's where the real like relationships are gonna be cultivated. Like you said, is outside the training or around the training, not so much actually in physically doing the training. So, like with that, how did you get started in Taekwondo? What's your
I was like maybe 12, 13 years old, and there was the Taekwondo club was really close to our house. And so my dad, first my older brother gets to the Taekwondo classes. I am 1 year younger than him, and I was still swimming, but I was I'm not the tall guy, I'm very short guy. So I was the worst in the swimming, right? So all guys who, or the people in the class who mature very early, so the maturation went very early, and they the growth were really fast. They were the best in the swimming, and I was feeling like a loser. So I was trying to find a sport which I could be really good, regardless of my size. So Taekwondo is like a weight division. So you compete with the people which are similar with the size and the height and body weight, body mass, and so on, right? So, but it was only like coincidence that it was Taekwondo. I think that if it was a karate or kung fu or something, I don't know, judo, maybe my father took me for the judo, but I know that next to our house was the school where the Taekwondo was organized, and I got in my first class, and I love it because I was raised on the movies with the Van Damme, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. So I always like to kick. Yeah, so I always was fascinated about the kicks. And I remember my first class in Taekwondo was when we tried different kicks. Never mind that I did not have any technique, but the process that I was trying to do some technique, and I could see the older friends that this is possible to do. This is not only the movies, but this is possible to do in the gym. It motivated me to train, right? So I wanted to come once again and kick on the head and turning kicks and do like turning kicks with jumping and so on. So I was fascinated about the limitless possibilities of the different kicks combinations, right? And so my older brother and me, he was in the like a more professional group than I was, but like after a few years, coach put us together, and he was also very good competitor. So we were like he was pushing me forward. So because of I was sparring with him and he was better, I think this helped me to make a much more bigger step. If you train with a better athlete, you make much more progress than you train with the worse athlete, less experienced, right? So
yeah.
I could learn from him, and I stick to the Taekwondo. I remember in 2005, my brother, after the world championship in Dortmund. He just quit Taekwondo, and he was really tired of losing the weight, all the time cutting the weight up to minus 54. So when he went to Muay Thai, the Thai boxing, I got from junior to senior national team up to 54. So he make a spot for me eventually, right? So, and I stick with Taekwondo for the rest few years. He went to the Thai boxing, the Muay Thai. Yeah, and you know, I do not regret. So it was a really great experience, and even now, like 3 times per week, 2 times per week, I'm going to the gym, meet my friends, and you know, just do some Taekwondo stuff, training, and because if I want to, you know, just do something with my body, I prefer to go to the Taekwondo gym than run, you know, because I like the environment and I like the kicks. I like the, you know, it makes me fun. The trainings never make me tired. It was also really a good way to make sweat, right? And
Yeah. And are you planning on a comeback or anything like that?
Yeah, so my friends told me, Amit, you know, you should come back, you know, but you know, I was competing up to 54 and then up to 57. Now I'm 66, something around that. Yeah, so 66, 67. I would say that I could try, but I do not want to come back and be a shit, you know, like really in the bad shape. So if I decide to come back, I need to have time to be prepared very well. So I told myself that, okay, if I decide to come back, I need to have at least 4 or 5 trainings per week to get back to my shape. And I'm older and older, right? So it's not so easy, and I feel it how I recover. Like when I was young, I was doing like 2 trainings per day, and I have never like you know, the delayed onset muscle soreness, you know, like muscle sore after. Never. Now it was like 3 days. Oh my god, you know, it's like I feel that my body is changing. So, but for now, I'm also training other people. So when my training Taekwondo is, I need to be with the other people. So I do not have chance to train myself, right? So because everyone wants to train in the evening, and the Taekwondo classes are at the evening. So no, so there's no point. I'm just doing now recreation. So 2 times per week, this is nothing, right? So you know about that. You need to train very systematic to get back to the shape, because coming back to the shape is much more demanding than just maintain your performance level. So I need to do. I need to do like a double of this work. If I was like a competitor, right? So because I had some performance level, now I'm here. So I cannot come back just here. I need to come back here and maintain it. So this is extra work. This is extra work, right? And I'm older, so I think that I would never come back to this level when I was as a competitor, right? Because it's like for even professional athletes, like 2-3 weeks of totally rest, it's disaster. It's really disaster, right? So, and other point is that if you were a professional athlete, do not never stop training. If you just stop train and go to the office work and do not do anything, you will get really problems, because your body was always used to the you know, the calorie some calorie requirements in the training, different diet, a lot of water balance, you know, like losses and retaking, and the whole hormone system was different. So you will really feel bad after it. So I remember then when I quit just Taekwondo and I got the contract in the sports supplements company, I was just sitting in front of a computer, and I hate this period because I was feeling like when I was training, I felt much more better when I just stopped training, right? It was like that you are just you were feeling like you were getting older and older very quickly. You know, like fat, and you know, and it's like everything was like you were slow. I didn't like. So now it's my advice is like, do not always stop the training totally. Just do it something, but like 2-3 times per week. Just keep this, some small level of the fitness.
And how long do you think it takes, or what would you say before like the detraining starts to kick in? Is it as soon as 3 weeks, or would it even be sooner? Or
yeah, so it depends, right? So it depends. So in professional sports, like after like a big competition, so after World Championship or European Championship, you can do like two weeks, maximum 2 weeks, and this is not totally rest. This is called active recovery. So it means that you do not stop training momentarily without nothing. Like you just do not do nothing. You are doing things, but you are not doing taekwondo. You are like doing volleyball, cycling, do some sport, but only for recreational purpose. Badminton, tennis, do it. But do not think about the taekwondo to start to miss the training. Because when you started that you are tired of going to the same place and meet the same people and they make you tired, it's the first sign of the burnout, right? It's like I'm tired of this. This not makes me happy anymore, right? So it was like that you need to feel hunger once again. That I want to compete. I want to punch someone in the face and meet with the people, right? So like normally the training is like active recovery is like it's no more than 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, right? No longer. But if you like if there is some injury and you really go to the detraining state and you need to come back, so like I remember there was a study in 1960s and 1970s. They took just 5 people and they told them just to rest in the bed for 2 weeks, right? So the motor abilities and the cardiorespiratory system, it went down like the same, like you were get older, 30 years older. So like from 20 to 50. You know what I mean? So like only 2 weeks, 3 weeks of doing nothing, like lying in the bed, make you older, 30 years older. So if you have 20 years old and you just go to the bed and do nothing, so after 2 weeks you will gonna be 60 or 50 years old with your muscle, cardiorespiratory system, and so how long it takes to reverse these things. So they did the same. So after 30 years, they took the 50 years guy and they started the training. So it takes like 8 to 12 weeks, but they reverse all the aging process. So my conclusion is that it's never late to start the training, because you can stop the aging process, right? And you can maintain your fitness level. So this is a good point, right? So don't worry that this is not reversal, but it's harder to reverse. You will never come back to your young body, of course, but it's better to do something than not, because you're gonna die very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. So then, would you have, just going back to yourself and your competitive side of stuff, would you have always competed as a kid?
Yeah, I started like competing as a junior, so it was like maybe 14, 15 years old, because I started around 12, so it took me like 3 years to start some small competition, right, at the regional level in Poland. Yeah.
And so then, when would you have first went to did you compete at Worlds or Europeans as a junior?
Yeah, so my first international meet was, I think it was European Championships in 2000. In 2004, I remember I was in the World Championships in Riccione in Italy. So it was 2004, right? I remember that I lost to the. He's competing now. I'm not sure he's competing, but he's in Slovenia. Denis Dapic.
Yeah.
So so he was after. So we were competing in the minus 52 kilos, and I remember. So these times, 2004, 2005 was the best times, because the junior athletes, they could at the World Championships, they could compete without the helmet, without the protectors, and it was really, it was a really cool time. And so and the level of the competitiveness was really high. So I remember that I lost to him just to get to the quarterfinals. Yeah, and then I met Dennis also in the final 1 year later in the also in the Italy in the European champion in the final, right? So I was the second, he was the first, and then I stayed in the really small division, right? And really
Yeah.
like 54, 57. Dennis went to 70. So
Yeah.
this is also the sign how the growth, how the maturation impacts the career, right?
Mm.
And this is also the information for the coach that you cannot stop the normal process of maturation of growth of the young body. So if young athlete is putting up the weight, just leave it, right? Okay, if you are the senior over 18, 19 years old and you stop growing, you can manipulate your weight, but don't do it with the juniors. So I think it was the mistake. I was manipulating with my weights when I was young, but it should be done under eye of some dietitian, not like, oh, let's go to sauna, make 10 push-ups, and don't drink water for 3 days. It was stupid.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I think sometimes, especially with the juniors, they can get married to maybe one division and think, oh, this is my division, and they do everything they can to stick to that division, where at that time in your life it's maybe best to, what, actually I'll go up a division and compete there. Like, it's a different story when you get to senior and maybe you can start to get stuck into just the one division, but as a junior I think you shouldn't be afraid to maybe move to the next.
Yeah, exactly. Coaches something that if you lose the weight to the lower division, you're gonna be stronger and you will get the advantage, right? But sometimes the cutting weight costs you so much that you do not have even endurance and so on, right? And the strength to fight. So maybe it's better just to go to the higher weight division, but make some extra training like strength and conditioning or increase the endurance level, right, to cope with the higher division level, right, with the other competitors. Because what is better, losing like 2% of the body weight and being in the lower division, or no, gain up like 10% of body mass? So what is better? So in these circumstances, I would go lower division, 2%, okay. But if you have 10% from your like a young body, 60 kilo, 10% is 6 kilo. So you are making a big mistake, right? Really big mistake. And I told this yesterday to the other podcast with Adrian. Then okay, senior, other part of the story, junior and junior female athletes, they will really get in trouble because these are future moms, right? And they really can get pregnant after their career because the hormone system is destroyed, right? So, and they have also the bone mineral density loss, the low energy, they are low energy deficient. So all the body system is not worried. So they have really big long-term consequences, negative consequences of this cutting weight. So my question is, who is taking care of this female junior athletes after sport career? So do we you know what I mean? Do we even report what's happening now with the girls who were competing in 2001, 2, 3, or so on? Yeah? Let's see what was the mistake and repair it or improve some system in our discipline, right? So let's do the questionnaire with these girls, because I'm totally sure that we have contact to them. Just make a few questions. How do you feel now? If you have any problems with eating, or did you have any problems with hormones, and maybe do some retrospective study and see is there any correlation between how much you had to lose the weight and how do you feel now, right?
Yeah. Do you think that responsibility is on the coach, or do you think maybe something at an ITF level should be like maybe a bit
Yeah,
more, maybe a bit more stringent testing in terms of like uh, monitoring people who are cutting massive amounts of weight? Should that be more so the coach and the athlete, or do you think it's maybe the ITF should maybe put in some procedures that might take care of that?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Yeah, this is a very good question. So what we think is in the like traditional martial arts, East martial arts like karate, taekwondo, judo, like a traditional styles. We think that the coach who has the black belt or like a fifth grade, fourth grade, he's the master, right? And he knows everything about sports. And this is not true, right? You know why? Because in Poland, for example, I don't know how it's in the Ireland and the UK, but in Poland, you can be coach if you are over 18 years old. You can go to the shop, buy the black belt, the dobok, and open the gym and say, I'm the boss, right? I'm the sabum and I'm the sensei and I can do whatever. So to be the coach, you do not have to have the formal education in sports science, right? So, so the coach, okay, he's experienced in Taekwondo, in patterns, special techniques, the sparring, the tactical, technical side. Okay, he will know that discipline very good. He will tell you how to fight with this guy, but this doesn't mean that he know how to lose the weight, how to make the dietitian program, how to make the strength and conditioning program, and how to monitor the changes, right? So the coach need to have the team, the specialists, right? So in the big companies, you don't have one boss. You have one boss, and he is employing the people who are the specialists in different areas of the business, right? Economist, lawyer, some other guy like data analyst, and so on. So, but we were told that the guy with the black belt, he will know everything about the training process, right? So this is not true. And the other trait is that we think that the coach with the greatest number of athletes with gold medals is also the coach who has the best program. It's also not true, because we like to say that if somebody is winning, his methods of training are the best. This is not true, because something what works for him doesn't mean that it will gonna work for me, for you, and so other people, right? Because sometimes some coaches, for example, in track and field, there's a really good story. One coach on the conference told to the other track and field coaches for the 100-meter dash that, why I'm the best here and I'm presenting in front of you? Because when the athletes are coming to my training, he starts from 10 seconds per 100-meter dash, and I improve him for 9.5. It makes him world record holder, right? But if you have athlete at the beginning on 12 seconds per 100-meter dash, and you improve him in the same percentage wise, right? Half second. So it makes them the same methods. So these two coaches have their work is the same. The magnitude of the improvement is the same, right? So the same. So the level is the same, but the second coach, he will never get the athlete on the 9.5. So because it's different gyms, right? He got different material to work with. So if you have a coach in the big cities, when he got the 500 of athletes, so the pool of the gyms to choose is much greater than the coach from small village when he has 10 athletes per year, right?
Yeah.
So you need to watch out. You need to take all the environmental factors which could affect the sport success, right? So the sport success also doesn't mean that you had the best shape in your life. So I don't know that when I was winning the European championships in sparring, it doesn't mean that it was my best day in my strength level, endurance level, flexibility level, and so on. Because if I do not monitor track the changes, I do not know what was happening with my body when I was winning. Maybe I have won because I fight smart. Maybe I won because my opponent had worse day than mine, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you need to monitor what is happening with the body through the training process, because when you start another training year cycle, you want to come back to this training process and ask yourself, did your training methods were efficient, were good or not good, right? Did you improve your motor ability what you have expected or not? And if you have improved, do the same training cycle, because maybe you have lost the first fight because you were fighting against the world champion in the first fight, but maybe
Yeah.
you were in the best shape. But if you never monitor your progress, your coach will say, you know what, we did not train this and this, and this was the reason that you have lost. How do you know that?
Yeah.
If you do not monitor, if you are not assessing, you are guessing. So if you didn't monitor, how do you came up with the conclusions after the tournament?
Yeah. You're just stabbing in the dark, really, then, aren't you? If you don't track it.
Yeah, so create the data, make some, and then when your athlete is losing and your athlete is coming to you and saying, coach, I was dying, my cardiorespiratory system was not prepared, it's your fault. And then you're just taking the piece of your data and saying your cardiorespiratory system was the best for the last 3 years, and I have data here. And then you know where to look for other factors.
Yeah.
How simple is it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's actually a great point that you make as well about like the people who often have like the most competitors, that's often the reason they get the most medals. And I said this to a couple of people recently, that is it better to have, if you have 30 people on a national team and they go and take 10 medals, is that better than having, that's obviously not as good as having 10 competitors and taking 10 medals. It's like, whose training methods are better there then? So you took the same amount of medals, but like you said, it was maybe the guy who doesn't have as many competitors, but still has the same results. His methods are maybe better.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And so then you're saying that you're talking about some of the data and stuff that should be tracked. What do you think is the important kind of things to monitor as an ITF in a ITF Taekwondo?
Yeah, so I can think about different tests and so on, and different tools to make your program better and your process better. But the first question is to what you have access, like like what you can measure in your training facility, or what resources you have, right? So if you don't have any resource, find some applications on the mobile phone which you can track anything, like My Jump app, right? So there's a application for the mobile phone, and you can track the vertical jumping with the same precision as the university laboratories set force platforms. So start with the simple things with maybe one variable, but start tracking it really regularly and systematically, and start to make some conclusions, what is changing and because of what, right? So this is my first thing. Second thing, very accessible, and you do not have to you don't have any cost. It's making the wellness questionnaires, and the questionnaires about how training was hard. So the first wellness question is like, make your teams who are really, you are focused, make your athletes who are focusing on like some competitors, and ask them to feel every day on the morning how they feel, like how many hours they have slept, what is their stress level, are they prepared for training, how they are motivated, what is the muscle soreness level, right? So this is giving you first like view how the body responds to your training. Like if you have done on Wednesday sparring session, so let's see if Thursday morning or Friday morning they are still sore. If they are not, maybe they are adapted, or maybe the training was not so hard. So then see how they assess the training session. It was hard or it was not. So so for example, after the training session, you can make the scale of the, it's called rate of perceived exertion scale, right? RPE, Borg scale. So the athlete is pointing how hard was the session from 1 to 10. 10 extremely hard, like vomit, pick up, and 0 is just sitting in front of the TV. So when they pick, for example, some number, and you will multiply this number by minutes of the training, you have some load. You have some arbitrary units. Yeah, you have some arbitrary units of the load. And let's try to manipulate with these loads, because the number after the training, when the athlete is pointing on, it's correlated with the internal load. So how the body was feeling, how hard was the session, like heart rate, lactate, like a psychomotor state, and so on. So this is really good point to start. So then, because combat sports are not, I would say, it's not quantifiable. So you know what I mean? Like you cannot quantify, like this is not the football. You cannot quantify how much meter distance they covered. You cannot calculate, how was the high speed running, how many accelerations and decelerations, right? You do not have the GPS sensor units on the body like the football players have. You don't know what was the load of the body. So this is only way to calculate the load, what the body have responded during different types of the training. So if you have the database, you need to have the database. So when you have collect these numbers after different training, the RPE, Borg scale, then you can manipulate with your trainings more clever way. If you want to do a light training session, you open your notebook and you see after what training your athletes point the number, maybe 2 or 3, that it was the light training session. After what training they put 9 or 8 or 10, that it was really hard training session. I believe that every coach knows from experience which training is hard, which is easy, right? But sometimes if your athlete is losing the weight, you know that even easy training session is for him hard training session, and then you need to adjust it. Or sometimes you see that the group of the athletes is giving number 3, so light training session, but one athlete is giving 8, and then it's the reporting to you. It's like it's coming to you, the feedback that what's going on with this athlete. Maybe it's time to talk with him. And sometimes the other factors from the social life, maybe some problems in the family, maybe some problems in the school, makes him that he's not recovering very well, and even light training session is hard for him. This is not only for like managing the training load. This is also for your better relationship with the athlete, because it's closing the distance between you and the athlete, right? You know that you should come after warm up to him and just put the hand on his back. Hey, how are you? Everything is fine? Just normal talk, and he will open to you. You know that this is time to talk with him, right? Maybe he needs some, and then he will tell you, oh, I didn't sleep because my cat was sick, but then this is important things. People do not even take this into account, but social life no, the training is only 2 hours, but the life is like rest 20 hours, everything, sleep, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, so everything, right? And if you are stressed, you will not recover very well. And you need to take this into account. Everything what's happening with the athletes, right?
Yeah, I think you maybe need to then, I think, as a coach, potentially be kind of vigilant to what you're seeing from the athlete, because I think like of the RPE, like the taking of the number, the RPE recording can be very accurate if the athlete is accurate. I think sometimes, the athlete maybe wants to wake up and kind of go, oh no, I'm fine. And they don't want to say that they're fatigued or they're tired, they're stressed, that they want to give maybe they want to give that was a 5, even if the
Yeah.
session was an 8, 9 or a 10, they kind of go, no, I was fine. And I only give a
Yeah.
5. So I think as well, you had to maybe, as the coach, you have to look out for that and kind of see, are they being accurate?
Yeah, this is very important. So what is good to do is like that, to fill the questionnaires when the athlete is alone. So maybe in the home, right after the training, just go to the home. I have the many liars in the football, because because they are afraid that they will not play if they put some bad number.
Yeah.
But it's very easy. It's very easy to to track when the athlete is not honest, because if you are the coach, and if, for my example, if I am the former athlete, I know from experience how hard was the session. So yesterday I had the guy. Now is the Ramadan, and he didn't eat and he didn't drink for all day, and we had the first training football session after the lockdown. He was dying. The session was not really hard. So I was expecting that he will give me like 7, 8 of the RPE grade. He gave me 3. So I said, hey man, you were dying on the training, you're giving me that 3. So it was easy training session for you. So maybe you were not motivated, or maybe you want to pretend that you are like never tired at all, right? So no, it's like you need to be on the training. You cannot be like a scientist who are just getting the results to the computer and, oh, he was 3, okay, and give the report to the coach. No, when you are the sports scientist, you must be on the each training with the head coach and see what is happening. Then when you're reporting the data to the coach, he will say, hey coach, here are the results, but I would suggest that this guy and this guy were not so honest, because during the training the heart rate was this and this, and like last week we did really very similar training session, and number was much more different. Something is not not how it's supposed to be. So you need to observe, right? You need to watch what is happening on the training, and so that's why I don't like scientists who are just sitting in the university. They were never been on the field or in the gym, but they will tell you how to train,
Yeah.
or writing the papers or publish on the conferences, put the results, but he will never tell you how to make these results, like how to applicate this in the real world, right?
Yeah.
Because the science needs to be applicable in the real world.
I think it goes back to that thing that we said at the very start about the art of coaching. Nearly, you have to have that one-to-one personal interaction with the person to really work to the best. I think with that athlete.
That's very important. Yeah.
And so, what do you say to maybe the kind of people who think it might say that like a strength and condition isn't too important, that when it comes to maybe combat sports and things like that it's more, it's skill is more so important, that it's not necessarily the strongest or the fastest that win, it's maybe the person with the most skill? Where would you kind of say that the benefits of strength and conditioning and it fits into combat sports, particularly Taekwondo?
Okay. Yeah, so let's differentiate it. Like in Taekwondo, you do not have the cage, right? You do not have the ring. You have the mat, right? The mat, and you can escape, right? So if you are tired, you pretend with the gloves, time, you know, in the cage or in the ring, if someone will do time, referee will just say, start fighting, you know. You do not have time to escape, and you do not have a chance, you know, to just pretend that it was the mat was slippery or so on, and you know, nose is bleeding, so go to the doctor and rest, you know. So in the MMA or in the Muay Thai and so on, you need to be really very well prepared. If you are not, because I know that the strength and conditioning, so your strength level, your endurance level, and so on, this is not the factors will make you that you will win the fight. But remember that without these things really well developed, you're gonna, for sure, you're gonna lose, right? So they're not the most important, but without them, you don't even think to go to the ring or to the cage because they will kill you, right? Because you will not escape. And if you are not very well prepared in Taekwondo, you will just lose the fight. But after 5 seconds, you're gonna be okay. Let's go for the party or let's go drink, you know, and then just relax. But if you are not gonna be really well prepared in MMA or Muay Thai, you're gonna be knocked out and you will go to the hospital, you know, and then you're gonna be suspended for the last 3 months or 6 months, and you will not get paid for the next fights, right? And you know that if you got hit, it's shortening your career, right? So because every impact is some micro damages, right? And finally your career is gonna be shorter and shorter, right? This is not issue in Taekwondo because it's pretty safe, but in the more impact combat sports, you need to take care of your body because this is your tool to live for living, right? You are doing this for living. You need to pay the bills and so on. So you need to do everything that you are ready for the next fight. So, but the studies, the research is showing that in many combat sports, in judo, in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, MMA, Muay Thai, if you are the stronger athlete, you are more successful athlete, right? So if you compare the medalists and medalists, normally you will find that medalists are the stronger or their endurance capacity, like aerobic and anaerobic capacity, is on the greater level than the losers, right? So let's say once again, this is not the most important, but without really good strength and conditioning preparation, it's really high chance that you will lose the fight. Yeah, it makes maybe not makes that you win the fight, but for sure you're gonna lose the fight. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's much more better choice to be prepared than not be prepared, right? So in Taekwondo, when we have the ring, which is quite big, and if you are the clever, smart, the smart athlete, I had this few times with the Russian, with the Alexander Leonov. He was very strong. He was always stronger than me. So I knew it that I need to move a lot and to use the space and just punch, you know, when I had the chance, but never go to the close contact, right? Just punch and move, punch and move. So if you are the clever athlete, the smart, know how to fight, you can do this in Taekwondo. You cannot be prepared and you can still win the fight because it's much more point contact. But do not even try this in the more harder styles, like in, judo, when you need to grab, take the guy and throw him. In MMA, because they will knock you out. They will knock you out, and you need to be strong. You really need to be strong and to overcome the forces that the athlete is pushing on you, right? So you need to be really strong, because in Muay Thai you have the clinch work. In MMA you have throws, judo the same, and their component of the high force, it's much greater in those styles than in Taekwondo. Taekwondo is much more speed strength. It's like a more speed system of the fight. We do not only force. What we have to overcome is the inertia of our body, right, and of our limbs with kicking and with our body when we are moving. But in the other combat sports, when you need to really pull the athlete in the clinch work, or when you have some with the the throwing and some in the groundwork, when you have really high forces, you need to be really well prepared when it comes to the strength levels.
Yeah. So even like as you said there with Taekwondo, like it's much more, I suppose, like you said, speed, strength, that explosiveness, and
Yeah.
and I think when people come to training, that it's if you want to be more explosive, you need to do plyometrics, and I think sometimes what the idea of plyometrics is, people look up and think, oh, I have to start doing box jumps and I have to start doing, maybe some throws and leaps and bounds. But I think sometimes it gets left behind that kind of fit, that kind of work is correct, but that kind of fit needs to fit into a wider program that in the end will have you more explosive. Like you can't just decide, I want to be more explosive, I'm going to start doing box jumps. There's that you need to develop the force velocity curve, and you need to shift it. I think that sometimes there's a lack of understanding there.
So there are three mistakes. So there are three mistakes when it comes to the power training. First, it's not the choosing the exercises, it's the order of your training program. What motor ability you have preceded before the power training. So if you do not increase your engine, so the strength level of your muscle, there's no point of going to plyometrics.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you have a car and the engine is small, even if you give him more power horses by plyometrics, he will just collapse, right? Second thing is, I will come back to the strength levels, but second thing is that people are using plyometrics for conditioning. This is the worst thing what you can done. This is the fault of the CrossFit, right? So people are trying to do 100 jumps or like a depth jumps and so on. If you go, so the plyometrics are to increase the explosiveness and ballistics, like to be more explosive. So you need to recruit your muscle fibers which are responsible for high forces, high power, so type 2 fibers. If you do a lot of volume of work, you are changing the fiber types from fast fiber types to the slow fiber types composition, right? So you need to be aware of that. If you do too much work, they're gonna switch and you're gonna be slower, not the faster, right? But the most important thing is what you have said. It's not the exercises per se, it's how you manipulate the loads, like the periodization program. What you have done in some order, then you at the last stage you can start explosiveness and you are going much more explosive guy. But if you take two athletes and one is stronger, one is weaker, and both of them start the plyometrics, so these athletes will potentiate the magnitude of adaptation of power, which will be double than this one, right? And the next thing is that he will do the same progress in 5 weeks. He will need to go to this level 10 weeks. He will need 10 weeks to come to this level. So before you start with plyometrics, make sure that you are strong enough, right? So it's not maybe, hey, I lack of explosiveness, let's try to do plyometrics. There's no point to do plyometrics if you do not have the training program wisely structured.
Yeah,
so
there's
it's not
I think maybe like that, like you said, like you might as an athlete say, oh, I don't need to be stronger, I need to be more explosive. But to get to be more explosive, you need to be stronger. You need to you need to be stronger first before you get to there.
Yeah, there you go. And the manipulation of the load, the order is very important. It's not how much you put on the weight, it's how much you manipulate with the blocks of the preparations. It's giving you, we call this in periodization, potentiating effect. Yeah. So
the final effect is the product of what you have done 4 weeks before, 8 weeks before, and 12 weeks before. Because this first stage, the effect of the first stage is you will see after 12 weeks. Second stage, you will see effect after 8 weeks. And the last stage, you will see effect after 4 weeks. And this is the competition. You won't have cumulative effect, the residual effects of each block at the one time. So this is the clue of the periodization. So there's no point that you have the program and you can, let's do plyometrics.
Yeah.
No, you need to start with some logical order. Increase a little bit the muscle mass, increase the central nervous system, do plyometrics, and the muscle mass, the gain of the muscle mass, the muscle will grow after 12 weeks. You will have the more, your muscle fibers will be larger here after 12 weeks. This training from 4 to 8 weeks, this adaptation and the fatigue dissipation is going to be after 8 weeks, and the power training last 4 weeks is going to be just after the training, like 5 days after the training. And you have the cumulative effect of each stage of the preparation, which potentiate your power training. So during the training process, you will not see a lot of changes in your strength levels, power levels, even drop. But when you start, when you end the training process and give like 7-10 days of just recovery, then you will see when the lines are, everything is go up, because the fatigue is dissipated and all the training blocks accumulate in the one point. The adaptation effect from each block come to the one point together, right? So you need to know how many days each training, how many days the residual effect of the block is maintained after you stop this stimulus, right? Yeah. So this is very hard to. So it's not about the building the form for the competition. It's how to plan for this day. Yeah. I want to be for Saturday night in the best shape. Yeah. This is very hard.
And then does it become? Would you say it's very dependent maybe on the athlete, how much you maybe spend in each block, or would you keep that kind of just a general, well, we do, like you said, maybe like 12 weeks or 4 weeks in each block, or would you maybe spend, well, this athletes maybe need 6 weeks in this block and then maybe only 3 weeks in the next block to peak? Would that be a bit more individual, or would you keep it general?
Yeah, it depends. It depends from what level of, I would say about the strength now, but it depends about also the priority, what you want to develop, like what you want to focus on, right? But let's say about the strength levels. So if you never done the training like a really good program of strength training, so don't go to plyometrics if you are not if your strength levels are not something right about 1.7 of body mass in the back squat position, in the back squat exercise. Yeah, 1.7. So like I'm 66, so like I think it's gonna be, I don't know, around 100 kilo for me. Like I'm gonna calculate. So 1.7, yeah, 66, yeah. So 112. I should squat 112. Then it's good time to start plyometrics, right? So I would say like for Taekwondo, right? So for other, or like MMA, Muay Thai, I would say even 2 times body weight, right? So for like a bench press, 1.5 of body mass. Then think what is more important to you, right? So, but like normal blocks is like 3 weeks of training, 1 week of recovery. 3 weeks of training, 1 week of recovery, right? So it's like 4 weeks of each motor ability you spend for. So it's like a block periodization. So you can, in Taekwondo, it's pretty simple because you have 1 year in advance, you know the information when the European Championships are and the World Championships and so on, right? And other meets. But in the UFC fighters, sometimes they got called. For example, my brother, professional fighter, hey, in 4 weeks fight, are you taking or not, right? And it depends on what stage he's now, right? So it's really hard to be prepared for the fight. But then you need to rethink the process and what is the most important for now. Maybe let's emphasize the strength. Let's emphasize maybe some the cardiorespiratory system and so on, right? But it depends on what level your athlete is, right? You can combine, of course. Sometimes you don't have time and you have to combine everything. You have a lot of volume of work and it's dangerous because if you have a lot of volume of the work, you can really got really tired for a long time. So you just overreach the athlete and he needs to bounce up before the fight. And sometimes if you do a lot of work, he's not ready, you know, that he didn't bounce up back before the fight. And he just fighting during when he's really fatigued and you know, but yeah, so this is really really hard question and there is no one answer, but I think like let's say we have 12 weeks, we have 12 weeks to European Championships, so I would say like 4 weeks like a strength endurance, so make more endurance muscle. Then you have 4 weeks of like strength, and then you have 4 weeks of the plyometrics and power, right? So this system, when it comes to the strength, it's really evidence-based. So you do not have better system for now. You need to increase a little bit muscle, need to be bigger a little bit. I'm not sure to be the bodybuilder, but you need to build more contractile elements. The muscle fibers, when they become bigger, they are more forceful, right? They can generate more force. Then you need to tune up them, so more central nervous system. So here we have the low load but high repetition, high load but lower repetition range, and you have the last stage, explosive, no fatigue, like 4-6 repetitions, very explosive. When you see the drop of the power, you terminate the set. You just stop the set because this is not, you will not recruit the type 2 fibers, which are the more powerful fibers. You want to adapt them, you want to stress them. But when you go too high, too many reps, they just stop working, and you just develop the type 1 fibers, you know, and which eventually slowing down all the muscle, because you have different muscle fibers in the muscle, and if type 1 are bigger than type 2, so they contracting much more slower than this. But if you want this one go very fast, this one is stopping him. There's a drag because he's not going so fast. So he's going fast, but the type 1 is saying, hey, don't go so fast because I can go so fast, you know. So they're stopping them. They're stopping them. There is a drag, and you need to remember about that, right? So there's a point when you want to develop all muscle, more power horses, and you know, give some more chips to the engine, right?
Yeah. It might seem, I don't know if it's a stupid question, when you said about the strength and 1.7 to body weight, would you do that with after would you calculate that from the fighting weight, the weight the person fights at, or from the weight maybe that they sit at? How would you?
You know, like I would say that I would target the weight where he's competing in. Why? Because you know, if there's no point to check check the strength levels before losing weight, because if you lose the muscle mass, you will lose the strength levels, right?
Yeah.
So you need to always see what is your relative strength level to your body mass, right? So if you are losing weight but you are keeping the strength levels, relatively you are stronger. But the best way to do that is to just lose the fat, right? Yeah. Fat is not making the force, but so, and here we come with cutting the weight. so the question is how much fat you can just lose it without losing the muscle mass, right? And okay, you need to recalculate. Is it better to lose the mass, to lose the body fat and a little bit body muscle mass, but the strength are maybe maintained, maybe a little went down. But in the other hand, you have higher division, but maybe you will not get so strong, and you're gonna lose, right? So what is better? But if you have the athlete who has, I don't know, less than 10% body fat, and you want to decrease his body weight like more than 5 kilo, don't do it, right? So too much, right? So it's too much, right? So I would say like 2-3% it's safe, right? But this is up to the athlete and up to the coach what they decide, how they feel, and but first thing is to check the body composition. Sometimes you do not even have to do anything with the strength level, just like the Formula One, right?
Yeah.
So they do now they do not do anything with the engine. They just looking for solutions how to make the car lighter.
Yeah.
So what parts to throw away, and then you have more power horses per kilo of the Formula One car. So if you lose the body fat, you have the same power horses, but power horses per body weight is greater, right? So you are stronger, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes simple changes make big difference.
And you mentioned already that I think some of the problems that come with trying to strength train and condition a professional MMA fighter. Would you say that they're kind of the hardest people to work with? Because like you said, in Taekwondo, you have your set out season. You can plan for 12 weeks. If it's soccer or it's rugby, you can plan that, well, this is the season and we have matches on these days, and you can plan your season much more. But like you said, in combat sports and particularly like that, you can be, okay, there's a fight this week, maybe there's a fight in 4 weeks, maybe it's 12, maybe it's 8 weeks, it depends. Would you say that they're kind of the hardest people to work with in terms of that problem?
I'm not sure. I think that this is a very big problem for even for UFC fighters. And I remember in 2017 I was in the UFC Performance Institute for conference, and they told the same, that the normal periodization doesn't work for professional fighters, because sometimes they do not know when they're gonna fight, right? But money makes everything possible, man. So I think they pretty all the time in the shape. So the model what they present is that the fighter, like, for they cycling all the time. So the strength endurance and the basic strength and the cardiorespiratory system is like all the time is keeping maintained and some normal level. And when they got the call, hey, you fight in 8 weeks, 4 weeks, they just jump into the fighting camp, and the intensity is going up. But they say that if they were not maintained this level before they got the call, it's not possible to be prepared, right? So they say that normally they got the call. For example, they got the call like something like you are already after 4 weeks of preparation. You need to be like after 4 weeks of preparation and then you are ready to start a fight camp from really high intensities, right? So you need to be prepared not for the fight, you need to be prepared for the call to start a fight camp, right? So you are like a gladiator, right? Because if you start a fight camp without any base, you're gonna be recover after first week. You're gonna be just recover for the next 2 weeks, right? So you are much more like like in the active state. You are like in some preparation, small active state, and you are just waiting for your shot to increase your intensity and be prepared for
Yeah, you're
that.
kind of,
But
kind
they,
of touching the
yeah, and,
accelerator.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
and they
revving up
they
ready to.
also yeah, yeah, and they also say that you need to choose what is your purpose on the fight card: losing weight or increase the performance. You can do the same things together. So if you are losing weight, don't think about the increasing performance, because losing weight makes you feel bad and the quality of the training went down too, right? So how we can talk about the increasing performance in the same time when you're losing the weight? You are, you feel totally shit, right? So how you want to do like a really qualitative training? It's not possible. So if I could back to my Taekwondo career, I would say that the best way is to be around your weight division, keep this weight all the time, right? And when you have really, and when there is a 1 month up to the some meet, to the some competition, then start losing this maybe 2 kilo, 3 kilo. It's not so big, right? Much more like I think it's much more easy to then, like, you have fight and then 10 kilo goes up. Okay, 10 kilo, you train with 10 kilo with 10 kilo more than your weight division, and 2 months or 1 month before the competition you are starting losing the weight. So everything what you have developed during the training doesn't matter, because 10 kilo losing weight makes you different person.
Yeah, was it? And would you say that's a problem you sometimes face? Is you're trying to prepare a fighter to improve their performance, but they're coming into you kind of with more of a focus on losing weight, and do you feel like that could be frustrating sometimes?
Yeah, this is frustrating, but the most frustrating is that if you want to give your ideas, like your exercises or your like a program, and they tell you that, oh, but I'm not tired after this training, right? It's like, man, but there's a time to be tired and there's a training to not be tired, right? But in combat sports, the biggest problem is that every training must be hard. Yeah, every training must be hard, and then they think that this was the good training, and this is not true. The same is with losing the weight, right? So okay, we're gonna lose the weight in the last 2 weeks with the water, sauna, baths, and so on, right? And during the 8 week or even 12 week, he's taking like maybe 20 pills of different supplements. So what is the point if the last 2 weeks you are losing the weight in the sauna, doing push-ups, in the jacket and so on? Like, it's like long story to long way to change the culture. I think it's the culture problem, right? It's like I don't know why is that, and it's, but it must be changed. I think it must be changed, especially for young people.
Yeah, like I think my own perspective and experience is that, like, if you're going to lose the weight, it should nearly be, if you have a bit of weight to lose, it should nearly just be the byproduct of your training. It shouldn't be like the focus. Like, you shouldn't be going into training feeling like I have to sweat, but like you should be turning up to training that looking to improve performance, and maybe with a slight calorie deficit, the weight will slowly maybe tick down a small bit. But like, if you're going into your sessions and the only goal is to get that sweat, and I have to, because I have to lose a kilo or half a kilo tonight or this week, it starts to affect the training, and the training isn't actually, it isn't doing anything really.
You need to remember that training is for training, is not for like losing the weight, right? For losing the weight is diet.
Yeah.
Right? Don't eat junk food. Yeah, just make the calorie deficit, like you say, right? Because this is the only way to lose the weight. You need to be on the calorie deficit, but do not think that the training is the way to do the calorie deficit. you are doing calorie deficit by the restricting food intake and the calorie intake, not by the increasing the time of the training or by increasing the volume of the training, like number. So this is not the sweat, the water. It's not the way of losing the weight, right? It's one of the way of the last step of losing the weight, right? Like 500 grams you have during the day of the weigh-in, and then you go and run with the 8 jackets and so on, right? But at the beginning, you just need to make a calorie restriction and lose as much as you can from body fat, right? From body fat, and then think about the other tools what you could use, right? The sauna and the sweat and so on, right? But yeah, people think that they and this is also one of the things which I think makes people quit with the combat sports or with Taekwondo, that people are tired of losing the weight all the time because they do not know how to do that properly. And you know, the feeling when you do not even can drink the glass of water. It's not about the eating, but if you do not, the feeling that you cannot drink, I think it's the worst thing in my life I have expected, right? Like I have sorry, not expected, but I have experienced.
Yeah.
But no drinking, right? Yeah, but I do not even want to think what is the long-term effect to my body for now, what I was doing with my body, yeah, right? So yeah, so I think if we could really, like, good coach should have in the club, in the big club, good dietitian, really good dietitian, right? And also he should, the coach should have someone from somebody responsible for strength and conditioning, and for individuals who want some psychology sessions. And I think this is possible to do, but I'm not sure. But you know, it's like, I think it's ego. It's like I'm black belt, I have 4th grade, I am the master, right? Oh, yeah. Master, take work. You're the best. You know everything. It's not true. Remember, this is, if he doesn't have formal education from university, doesn't mean that he knows everything. Because if it was true, there would never be like a PhD from exercise science, right? Why the university offers, yeah, to work with the coaches and to help them with the training process, right?
Yeah, well, like, yeah, so being, like you said, a 4th degree, it doesn't necessarily, like, if being a 4th degree in Taekwondo is another route to get you to the same place as the college education, then you know, you'd have maybe have Taekwondo clubs would be full.
yeah 4th degree is not the master degree at the university or like a PhD, right? So we need to balance it, right? Yeah, he's the master in Taekwondo environment, but give other people to say in their field of expertise what they are, right? Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say is the best kind of form, or the best way to condition to compete at a high level in Taekwondo, trying to train to compete for 2 rounds of 2 minutes with 1 minute in between, and do that 5 times in a day? What would you say is the best way to go about preparing an athlete to perform like that?
Yeah, so many coaches, they think that they can condition the athletes just because of just using a Taekwondo session, right? But this is not true, because, for example, you have sparring during the training, and if you put the heart rate strap, and you analyze your fights, to increase your cardiorespiratory system, you need to gather around 10 minutes being on the red zone, over 95% of the heart rate during the training. It's really hard to accumulate so much time, because so if you even if you're sparring or you're doing some sessions on the pads, you know, some kicking patterns. So let's say 90 minutes, and then you track your heart rate, you need to accumulate around 10 minutes of really red zone session to be effective for your cardiorespiratory stimulus, to increase your heart rate mass, to stress your transport of oxygen and extraction of oxygen to muscles, and so on. And sometimes, if you compare different sessions, you do not collect this 10 minutes of the hard session, right? So even if you're sparring and you think it's hard, it doesn't make that you give the stimulus to the body which is needed to increase your cardiorespiratory system.
Be hard up here and maybe not here.
Yeah. And so I think the best way is to the competitors, they should have heart rates on the trainings, and if we have some purpose of the training, after it, look at the data and say, did we meet the criteria of the training or not, right? So, because you have limitless of means at the Taekwondo session, you can do a lot of different things, right? Okay, so maybe you meet the criteria to meet the purpose of the training from the tactical, technical perspective point of view, right? But this doesn't mean that you have did some conditioning good session, right? Because maybe you have kicked 10 times Dorio Chagi with high force. Okay, so maybe it was good for power training, but your heart rate for the 90 minutes of training was around 70-75% of your HR max, right? The heart rate maximum. So it was good for conditioning for your lungs, heart. No. So that's why sometimes we think that we trained a lot Taekwondo, but why I went for competition and I was dying in the first round, right? So Taekwondo and other combat sports are really hard sport disciplines to develop the endurance, because we are from physiological point of view, we are really mixed sports. So we need the anaerobic endurance and aerobic endurance. So anaerobic endurance and the anaerobic capacity helps you, to strike fast, to maintain to be the resistance of fatigue, and to kick very very forceful, very fast, and all dynamics action, the anaerobic capacity. However, aerobic capacity helps you to recover very fast between the rounds and between the fights. And you know that during the 1 minute of the between the rounds, you need to recover very fast, because if you do not recover and you start the second round with high fatigue state, you will not do any technique because you're gonna be tired, right? And the same when you have sometimes in Taekwondo, when you have the cup system, then sometimes after quarterfinal you have less than 5 minutes to fight in the semifinal. And after semifinal, you have. I had the same in Argentina. I think that if I had 5 minutes more of rest, I would win the final. But I remember that after the semifinal, it was like maybe 4 or 5 minutes of rest, and then hey, let's fight, right? The hardest fight, and I had only 4 minutes of rest. So the aerobic system helps you to be more fatigue resistant, to delay the onset of the fatigue, right? To less accumulation of metabolites in the blood and in the muscle. And so you need to focus on the both sides of your endurance. Anaerobic, so this is what helps you to be more faster, powerful, and like a really dynamic guy. And aerobic, so to be better prepared for many fights and to recover very fast. But I think that for combat sports, the best way to increase the, like in Taekwondo, 2 minutes on 2 minutes is high intensity interval training. But if you do not have competition, like let's say you are in out of the season, it's good just to go to the forest or go to the bike on the bicycle and just do long, slow, like a slow, like a low intensity distance, like long distances, like for a long time, like 90 minutes, 2 hours, because if you go with the low intensity but high volume of work, you are increasing in your muscle number of small organelles called mitochondria. So the mitochondria are burning the fat and carbohydrates and producing the energy which we use for the muscle contraction. So if you go like a long distance, the low intensity for a very long time, you're increasing the number of these small organelles in the muscle. So you produce more energy, right? But if you go to the high intensity work, like interval training on your during the Taekwondo session or during your strength and conditioning session, you do not increase the number of mitochondria, but the same one mitochondria is increasing the efficiency of work. So from instead of producing one ATP, one energy molecule, you are producing 3 energy molecules, right? So there is a time for preparation when it's good to put the emphasis on the high volume jogging, I don't know, bicycle to the park like 2 hours, or even go to the mountains, walk around like for all days, increasing the number of mitochondria. And then when you start your season and more specific work, go to the high intensity. So the periodization for the cardiorespiratory system would be very similar for the strength, right? For the strength was building the muscle, tune the muscle by high loads, and then plyometrics, more power, tune it up much more, right? The same for the cardiorespiratory system. Build the heart, build the mitochondria, right? And then tune up more adaptation on the muscle level. So more enzyme activity, to teach the muscle to how to extract the muscle from the blood, right? And how to and teach the heart how to pump much more blood per one heartbeat. So you need to also put the logical order to be well prepared. But I think that the easiest way to increase the conditioning for combat sport for Taekwondo are like, you know, boxing back strikes, kicking on the pads, like, you know, like some in the interval way, because in the interval training you can stress aerobic system and you can stress anaerobic system. It depends how much work and what will be the relation between the work and rest, and what would be the intensity of the work, right? Then you can manipulate your response of your body, because you can give, for example, 30 seconds of work and 50 seconds of rest. So, and for example, kicking on the pad maximum, and it's gonna be, your heart rate will go up and it's gonna be stable for a really long time. Really good for cardiorespiratory system. Let's say 30 seconds maximum all out, 4 minutes rest, long recovery, very good for anaerobic power, for to build the glycolytic activity of the enzymes and of the how to use the anaerobic energy systems to develop the power and fatigue resistance during the anaerobic metabolism. So you can manipulate with this, with the same work time, but different rest periods is giving you different results. But high intensity interval training, a lot of combinations, a lot of responses. I think maybe we could do a webinar with this, and it would be much more helpful to explain.
I think something like that could be great. Actually, I think that would get a really good response. And so it really kind of comes down to that kind of, like you said, the work to rest ratio is where kind of a lot of the work is done, and what determines which kind of system you're working.
Yeah.
And would you say that the best maybe way would be to like that, maybe hitting a bag, hitting a pad, as it maybe, you know, it replicates
Yeah.
it replicates the actual activity most, as opposed to maybe, I don't know, on a bike or on a rower or running or skipping, that if you can actually keep it close to the techniques you'll actually be using in the competition, that would work best.
Yeah, you must remember that sometimes the structure of the movement do not allow you to do not allow you to go for like a high response. So what I mean is running, like, let's say I will give you the example with soccer, with football, right? Running with the ball or running without the ball. So if I ask 30 seconds to run without the ball, I know that my athletes will develop really high speed. But if I give the ball, they will not develop high speed because he need to control the ball, right? So you need to choose the exercises which will elicit your response, what you get. So if you have the Taekwondo athlete and you ask him, hey, 30 seconds, all out, dolio tragi, right and the left, round middle kicks, right? So if he's yellow belt, he will not be fatigued after it because his kicks are right. So technical component do not allow him to stress the cardiorespiratory system. But if you give the same exercise to black belt, right, he will, in 30 seconds, we have a guy, he's hitting 70 kicks in 30 seconds. And after it, he's destroyed, right? He's like, oh my God, I don't want to do once again, right? The same with the, so if you figure out some movement which is really technical demanding, or somebody is not able to do, the cardiorespiratory system will not elicit the high response, right? So you must stress the system, right? So running, cycling, kicking, striking on the back, I think. What else? But if you give some exercise, I don't know, let's say I don't know, push up and then jump, like so there's a way that you can cheat during this exercise. He can go slow down to push up, and then he can stand up and jump, right? But if you have motivated athlete, he can do really high this, right? But you need to look, does the exercise eliciting the response what you want?
Yeah, it's a funny, a good stuff. It's a interesting, as you said, that like that you need the proficiency with the technique, because it wasn't too long ago that we were training and we kind of did something similar. I can't remember exactly what the time was, but it was Adrian had us attack with a side kick and defend. Attack with side kick, defend. So it was boom, back. So you were going forwards, back, and at the end, I was on the floor, and we had some of the yellow belts were kind of going, well, that wasn't that too bad. And you're kind of going, well, I don't think you did it right then, because you should be on the floor. You need that. Kind of, there was me kind of thinking, because it was a little bit after the European Championships, that I was kind of thinking, Jesus, has my fitness dropped off that much? Like the yellow belts are fitter than me now. But no, it was like that. Yeah, it's proficiency with the technique is the factor.
So the same thing you can do with sparring, right? So what I'm doing with the football, soccer players, if you change the sides of the field and you put the players inside, but you are making the fields smaller, then you are increasing the intensity, right? They need to move up all the time. So the same with the sparring. If you make the ring, the mat a little bit smaller, you will force the athlete to contact much more often, right?
Yeah.
So and then you can, because if you give a lot of the space and you will check the heart rate, he can just move around. I know it's also fatigue all the time moving around, but it's not gonna be the training to elicit a high cardiovascular load, right? So sometimes you need to think about, and here is the way how the strength and conditioning coach can work with the head coach, right? So the head coach is like, this is how I work with the football coach. He's sometimes he's giving his ideas to a training, some things with the ball, and I'm doing just one thing. Okay, coach, let's do the same, but recovery time not 40 seconds but 20 seconds, and this makes other story. The same with combat sport athletes, the same thing, but just decrease the recovery time, smaller ring, smaller mat, or maybe larger area of the fight. Maybe one athlete has this technique, this athlete has only this technique, right? Yeah. So maybe this athlete is only standing in the corner, and this one is attacking on the yop chagi all the time, right? Yeah. And different ways of, and you can combine. Then you have then this is the top level of the art. Then you are combining the technical tactical session with conditioning, strength and conditioning, and I think is the best way to do it, right? Because you do not this is not some other session, everything is combined together, and then I think this is how it should be done.
Yeah, I like that. I think like there's only so many hours in a day. If you're trying to do your sparring sessions, like your technical sessions and your conditioning sessions and your strength sessions, as like you say, you're into fatigue levels and all this sort of, and then just even time. So if you can combine them like that, I think it could work best.
Yeah, you are time efficient, right? So but you never, but remember that you will never load the musculature, the strength level in the training without the weights. So you can do the conditioning, but you will never make athletes stronger without the weights. You can do like pretty weak athletes, you can make them stronger with the push-ups, abs, and so on, but they will never be as strong as the athletes who were forced to really bench press with really high loads, squats, and so on, right? So the athletes who are taking the part in the strength training with the high loads will be always stronger than the people who even have the same muscle mass, but if they didn't overcome the high loads, they will never be as strong as the athletes with the weights. This is because of the different pattern of the central nervous system signal to the muscles, right? And yeah, so remember about that. Right? Conditioning you can do at the Taekwondo session, but strength, I don't think so.
No, it has to, the force velocity curve kind of comes into play again there. You're having to overload the system and that. So yeah, you have to kind of get under the bar, as I suppose you could say. I think we'll leave it there, actually. I've really enjoyed the chat. I think there's some great stuff there that people can take away. I really enjoyed speaking about that side of things, trying to condition. It's something I'm studying a bit myself. So it's great to talk to somebody who's a bit more of an expert in the field to share some knowledge.
Once again, thank you very much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next one. And if you guys interested, yeah, we can do much more webinars, and I just need to translate them from Polish to English. But yeah, it's possible to do, and thank you very much. I hope that webinar was good for you all, and everyone will take something helpful for his training process or for his life.
Yeah, thanks man for coming on, and hopefully we'll get back to proper training and all that soon.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
All the best.